Welcome back, everybody, to the Meeple Marathon. Today we have another exciting unboxing, or rather a series of unboxings for Cloudspire. This is the all-in gameplay pledge from their most recent Kickstarter, where they introduced the Uprising and the Horizon's Wrath faction expansions. So we're going to be taking a look at those two factions here in this particular video, because this is the new stuff. I'm also going to take a look at the Heroes Bounty, which are like the unlocked Kickstarter edition cards, as well as the hardbound Volume 2 Ankar's Plunder, scenario lore book. And then in a separate video, for those of you who are not familiar with the game, we will take a look at Cloudspire along with the Portal Seekers and Greege expansion, which were from the original Kickstarter. And just real quick, for anybody who wants to see what's in this nondescript box, it is some premium health chips. So normally the health chips that come with the game are more of a plasticky material. They're not these nice heavy clay chips. So these will be replacing those, but I can also use these for my Too Many Bones game. So that was pretty easy. But let's clear all this aside and take a look at Horizon's Wrath, the Uprising, and the other second wave Kickstarter content. Okay, so we're going to start off with the Horizon's Wrath faction expansion. I feel like the Cloudspire Pirates here were kind of the face of the second most recent Kickstarter. So what is most unique about these guys is that their fort, which normally is kind of built into the earth per se, is more a floating gunship. I'm trying to think of a movie to compare this to, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. But it can actually move around, and it can also fire cannons in like direct lines. So you can pick up your gunship, move it, and fire devastating cannons on people's spires and right down their, the people, the minions that are marching down on them. I have found that these things, most people just take and throw away really quickly. But if you can fit them in the box and you don't mind them being there, they're actually pretty handy to keep your games and your boards and cards and things nice and dried out, so that they don't warp when you take them out of the box. So just a little note, don't necessarily just get rid of those so quickly. So we have a standard chip theory chip tray here with lots of room. So I feel like I'm going to have a lot of these left over, plenty enough to put my health chips in. We've got 2 faction specific dice, and then we have a whole bunch of tokens here that I'm going to need to break into. Okay. All right, so let's see who we got here. This would be your targeting token. If you're playing multiplayer, who are you going after, so people know. Nondescript token there. And here we have Track's Tail. So this is the gold borders are heroes. For those of you who are not familiar with the game, essentially there's gold heroes. There are the bronzish, like this gentleman here, who is a minion, and then there's going to be gray ones, which is probably this, which are these spires, or the towers in this tower defense style MOBA game. And as you're looking at this is actually the upgraded side, promoted side. So on the standard side here, you have lots of information, and this is Chip Theory Games. This thing is that everything appears on a poker chip, and all the iconography you need is right there. So his health is 4, so that would mean you'd be stacking 4 of these health chips underneath. He can attack for 2. He has a movement of 3, and he can take 1 upgrade. That's the little tiny blue pip. Swashbuckler is a specific trait he has that'll be featured on his faction-specific card underneath. It costs 4 command points to get him into the game, and if someone defeats him, they're going to get 3. What's the source? Which is kind of like the money in the game. Also, this little double tree symbol here tells me what kind of terrain he can go on. So then looking at a minion, it's the same way. You can see here he cannot be upgraded though, but everybody can have the ability to flip to a promoted side, and you can see he's basically getting more. Let's see, he got more health. Yeah, and that was pretty much it. He got more health. Did his terrain change? Yep, his terrain changed. If you don't have a thing, then you can only walk on the path, but then he got an additional keyword. So we're going to see some duplicates here, but we're just going to run through these pretty quickly. Gunner, that's the promoted side. So air defense, 2 range, so they can attack from a distance, which is cool. Here is one of the heroes then, Mistbane. So this is your starting hero, more than likely, because he costs you 0 CP. So this is who you're going to start the game with. And here's Mistbane's promoted side. Let's see, there's another Corsair. Here is a Swabby, who I know that these guys have some sort of tactical advantage to them. They've got this Invigorate, Press Gang, and Slap. See, they don't attack, and they only have 1 health. So you basically, they're like cannon fodder. I will have to remind myself of what they can actually do. So here's Gliders, which is interesting. These guys have really good terrain coverage for a minion, and can go 3 at a time. Flying, Breakneck. Again, all of these keywords will mean something to you. Transport, which is interesting. I guess they can transport troops with them. Here is a standard Buccaneer. That's his promoted side. There's another Swabby, another Buccaneer, a Powder Monkey, which is cool. There's the standard side, and then the promoted side. So Detonate and Spyglass. Another Swabby, another Powder Monkey, another Gunner. We've seen the Gunners already. All right, so obviously there's going to be, I think, at least 1 hero and some spires in here. All right, so here's the other hero. Look at that, 7 health. He can take 2 additional upgrades. He can go through the mountains, 7 command points to bring him into the game, though. And there's his upgraded side. Ooh, this is cool. I believe this is one of the cannons. Yeah, so you put this in and you kind of rotate it around. So there's, or no, maybe this is the plank. That's what this is. So you can actually, you put this out at their entrance and you could move your ship, which means you draw on the plank and everybody on this spot, I think, falls into eternity and dies, which is a really cool mechanism. So then here is, a tower, essentially. So similar to the minions, all the statistics are here, except towers don't ever move, so there's no movement. But what you're seeing here is how many attack dice they're going to roll and what their range is. And everybody has a range of 1. So adjacency is always there, so this is technically adjacent spaces, and then 1 more past that. Again, how much source it costs to bring them out, how many upgrades. Towers are going to take a lot more upgrades. I don't believe there's an upgrade. No, there does appear. I think this is an entirely separate tower, but this one's interesting because it has a directional arrow on it, a directional attack, or the air clipper. Here is the lifeboat, or the shadow skiff. There's another air clipper, and another gunboat, another lifeboat, and a shadow skiff. Okay, so 4 towers essentially, but they're not really towers. They're more like little mini gunships. So that is all of the chips for Horizon's Wrath. Let's take a quicker peek at their Flying Fortress here. So this is where you're tracking like the health and your source, and then there's spots for pegging in your fort upgrades here, and then the die that you can slate in. Here is the plank. So you would put this guy here. So the plank is pulled up, and now the plank is out. So we can walk out, but people can come in. So that's just a really cool mechanic, unique to their faction, obviously. And here are the guns. There appears to be 4 guns, so that's pretty intense. All right, so they have their own scenario book, but all of this stuff should be covered in that hardbound book that we'll take a look at in the end. But you can see here, just real quickly, without any spoilers, it appears to be there were 6 chapters. 6 chapters in an endless mode. So 6 scenarios for these guys. Solo campaign, co-op campaign ranks. Yeah, so this is pretty much just scenarios, and here is their sheet that is covering all of their information. So let's flip this over here and take a look at this. Crew quarters, quick escape, launch bay, shadow skiff, and then lifeboat spires can now be constructed, so you have to even get this upgrade. Stowaways. I want to take a look at this side. However, this side is showing all the people in here. Swabby, invigorate. When this unit is defeated, you may promote 1 friendly active minion or the newly revealed unit grouped under this one. Okay, so you kind of, he costs 0 CP. So it's like, why wouldn't you throw him out there? Really, I guess you're going to give them an easy source to gain. Press gang. When defeated, you may spend 2 source to place this unit back in your barracks. Otherwise, it is removed from the game. Okay, so there you go. It's for free command points to put them out, but you got to pay CP to keep them around. Slap. This unit attacks and retaliates even if its attack stat is 0. And emboldened, if this unit is defeated while grouped, the newly revealed unit may immediately move and attack. This does not count as the newly revealed unit's movement or attack for that turn. So that's cool. So yeah, here's all the various heroes and the minions. I don't know why Corsairs are kind of tucked up here, but oh no, I guess Glider's considered a minion. So minions, and then the 4 towers. If you care to pause the screen at this point, you can, but I'm not going to cover all these in detail. We'd be here all night. So let's take a look at the Uprising now. Okay, so here is the Uprising faction expansion. My 4 boxes did appear to get a little beat up, these smaller expansion boxes, but hopefully I'm going to be able to fit most of this into the base game box, and I'm almost certain that at some point here, their Chip Theory Games is going to create a trove chest similar to what they did for Too Many Bones. So, what is unique about the Uprising faction is these guys kind of remind me of like the Rebel Alliance in Star Wars, or the all of the groups in various movies that kind of rise from the ashes that have been building underground and nobody pays any attention to them, and then all of a sudden they just release themselves on the world. So they have their fort here, but it's actually not connected to the island in any way. So they are going to pop up onto the map in certain locations that you're going to be marking out with these like portal gate things, and so strategically they can essentially change where they start on the map each time, which is a big benefit to them. And so their fort is more of this removed location from the rest of the maps, because they actually pop in via portals. Or I think it's meant to be like they're just burrowing in from underground. are burrowing up from underground, but since these are like floating islands, that doesn't really make sense. So they don't actually live up on the floating islands. They live down on the ground where people don't want to go. So here's another one of those things. And this is looking very familiar, but as it should. All right. So these guys actually have 3 dice, 3 upgrade dice, which is cool. All right. Okay, so here again is your kind of target marker chip. And then here is, okay, a way gate. So there is a way gate, it says unstable. And then a destroyed way gate. So now what I'm wondering is these guys are listed as militia. Let's get all these way gates out of here. Okay, so 4 different way gates, but then there's the, and note that the color of these chips are all kind of off-white in tone. So we have the Militia Ranger here, or Militia Defender. It's not a promoted side, it appears to be a completely different person. So there's one side and there's the other. Yeah. And then you have, so these guys are both minions, and then you have Netherut, who is a hero, your starting hero. He's the face of the faction. Lookout 5, build a waygate, which is cool. And then you have these spires here. So Rubble Rouser, yeah, or Rebuilt Ruins. So these are the same. So they actually have less than everybody else. And what I believe is I believe these are actually going to be market chips here, which are going to go into the market and have, yeah. So I believe all of these with like the specific back on them are all going to be market chips. Yes. So let's take a look at some of these here because they're one-sided. Death's Javelin. So this is going to be a spire, range of 4 right off the bat. And then it can take 4 other upgrades on top of that. Source Ride Boots, which give you speed. Tactics Manual gives you train. I believe that means you can just promote for free. Here is a hero, Eden. Okay, but yeah, notice he does not have a promoted side because he's coming from the market. So he's a mercenary. Climbing gear. Morning Star. So you can give somebody a weapon. Wind funnel. Wind turbine. Just 2 range. So it actually does not have any attack to begin with, which is weird. Proximity mine. And Elax breastplate. What else we got here? A whole bunch of stuff. The Mudslinger. So no range for it. Devoted, there's another minion. Combatant. Omen Rider. That guy's kind of cool. Usul. He's a hero. But again, no promoted side. Or Krub. Krub's also a hero. So that's actually the 4th hero we've seen. Zerker Rebel. Infiltrator. Fairy. Source Sniper. Emissary. Modified Prism. Twin Barrel Bunker, and Glade of Blades. So, again, I am not as familiar with this faction as I am with the Horizon's Wrath expansion. I'm wondering if those just get mixed in with all the other market stuff. They must give you some kind of added benefit at the beginning to purchase more. But that's their thing, that they're definitely basically just hiring mercenaries the whole time. Very little is part of their standard faction. Alright, so here is their fort. Again, it's not going to be attached to the land in any way. So I'm not really sure how you defeat these guys because they won't have a gate to destroy. But again, they also have a lot more upgrades that they can add to their fort as well. So here is the scenario book. Let's just take a quick peek here. Yep, 6 more for them. Also some endless modules. Let's see if it gives a little brief thing at the beginning. No, but I'm hoping this gives us some more information here. So, the Uprising is primarily made up of market chips, so you'll need to be flexible to take advantage of their full potential. Use your unit's strengths to take on various ops and consider defeating your own units when they're weak to deny source rewards to your opponents. Interesting. Finally, don't forget the power of multiple deploy points via building new waygates. Chips from this expansion have this symbol on them so that you can easily separate them. The black market chips from this expansion can be included in your game whether or not you are playing with the Uprising faction. Oh my. So there's like 2 sheets in here. And one of them is an entire glossary, I'm guessing, of all of the chips that were included in the market here. I love their, it's not really paper, whatever this is, this waterproof thin plastic or whatever. So yeah, very little here. Setup: when you select the Uprising as your faction, place the 4 Uprising waygates beside your barracks, place all other Uprising units and spires in your barracks, then create the market stack and draw from it until you have 2 minions, 1 hero, 2 spires, and 1 equipment, placing these chips in your barracks. Set aside any chip drawn that would go above these limits and shuffle them back into the market stack when finished. During the island creation, after revealing and orienting your first face-down isle, place a waygate on any hex on that isle that is adjacent to a valid path hex. Your fortress should be placed in front of you, detached from the play area. You do not pay source when making purchases from the market. Place purchased units and spires in your barracks and purchased equipment and earthscapes beside your barracks. After the market phase and before the build phase, an additional phase called the draft phase occurs. During this phase, which is open to only you, you may take up to 3 turns. On each turn, you may perform one of the following options. Purchase a market chip from the offerings at no cost and refill the market as normal. Discard and refill all market chip offerings. Interesting. So they get it all for free? Landmark and market talents. So some of these may have been landmarks. No. They would have had to have a different back on them. Anyways, so that is the Uprising faction. Again, very interesting, very different from everything that we have seen thus far. Here's one more look at their fort. Now let's take a look at the other fun stuff that came as part. This is all new stuff, again, as part of this newest Kickstarter. Okay, so this is Ankar's Plunder. Its playable history of Ankarian conflict continues. So this is essentially my scenario book, so it should have at least 12 scenarios in here. I think there might be a few more, actually, but there's also some lore and some good artwork in here. So let us take a look here. So here we go. Horizon's Wrath scenarios 1 through 6. Bonus scenarios. So 1, 2, 3, 4 solo and 2 co-op scenarios. The Uprising, 6 scenarios, and then various skirmishes. Okay, so it's basically giving you everything in the game so far. These are all like the original fortresses, all of the different Earthscapes. This is like a compendium. AI talent. Huge glossary here. All the keywords. Ankarian Renown solo mode. This book contains 3 sets of scenarios, each containing 4 solo scenarios and 2 co-op scenarios. Each scenario allows you to earn renown, which is tracked to determine your overall success in the solo and co-op scenarios overall. Okay, so you can keep score. And then rank yourself. Not as interested in that. Horizon's Wrath. Here we go. So again, a whole bunch of lore here, some great artwork. What's really nice is that this book lays flat. Like, I'm not even touching it. It's brand spanking new, and we're only in the first 25 pages here. But, you know, the way they have sewn up the pages enables it to lay flat. Chapter 2, Storm Along. So, some really nice lore before each scenario. Okay, this is the first time where I have not been able to just lay the book flat, which is interesting because you think as we, yeah, but that's all it took, was just a little bit of pressure, and it's staying open. So let's actually kind of jump ahead to scenarios that are part of just this book. Bonus scenarios. Here we go. Pages are all kind of sticky. Not sticky, but like clingy. Alright, Terror Doctrine. So this, I guess if there's only 2 fortresses, it must be solo. Solo, yes. Okay, so these are based off of the various factions here. Each faction has its own, maybe Horizon's Wrath and the Grove Tenders. Oh, look at that. So this is a co-op one. Alright, so the Uprising gets its own solo one. Defiant Shrine. Look at this, it looks like you're actually going up against 2. 2 against 1 in the solo. That's interesting. Alright, and then we have the Greege, which, okay, another solo one. The Greege is then going back up against the Uprising. And Horizon's Wrath, another solo. So who are we missing? The Brahmin and the Airy must be the last 2. No, and then the Uprising and the Greege. Interesting. So the Brahmin and the Airy did not get represented in the bonus scenarios. Uprising Capital, the Beachhead. That's cool. Here you can see all the islands floating in the background, and they're chilling down by the water. Alright, so let's see what else is back here. Uprising Chapter 6. Yeah, I want to be right here. Skirmishes. Skirmishes are a 1v1
competitive scenarios like solo and co-op modes, skirmishes give players unique map setups and win conditions, but you're competing against a live opponent rather than the game's AI. So there you go. There is a whole bunch of these. Harvest, Rotten Core. So very specific map layouts, very unique map layouts, specific win conditions that are not necessarily just bash down the other person's gate, inheritance. I mean, these go on forever here. Let's see. Then we have endless mode here. This funky guy. Landhill's Lessons. First, an introduction. For those of you unaware, my name is Landinil, Scientist Prince of Nefets. I'm the Nefets people's foremost researcher on God's crumbs. In my studies, I began writing a series of tomes about Ankarian history and current events. Okay. So I wonder if these are like, if this is just lore, or if it's keys and tips and tricks. But there's a whole bunch here. The World of Ankar. So here's additional lore on all of the factions thus far. Uprising, and a thank you. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That was the hard book, scenario book. There's the back. So, opened up, it's kind of one big picture there. Last but not least, let's take a look at these additional cards that were part of the Kickstarter. I absolutely love these tuck boxes. They're made out of the same material that the like faction sheets are. That's like a waterproof plastic. All right. So we have Propaganda, Prep Phase. Each faction gains +3 CP this way. Interesting. Storm of the Vaults, Event Phase. Each player draws a relic at the start of each subsequent event phase. The players with the lowest Fortress Gate health draws a relic. Okay, so let's divide these up real quick between relics and events. Mostly relics. Okay. Omega Brigade. I'm not going to read all these. Onslaught, Hasty Construction, Relic Rush, the Gambit. Your selected minions this wave must be either all ungrouped or all grouped. Dark Maneuvers, Campfire Mode will not trigger this wave. Interesting. Faction of Rogues. Each faction's spire that is closest to the center aisle hex is converted into a rebel spire that opposes all factions. Wow. Source Monolith. Assassins. Each faction must draw and place a random market chip anywhere within the upgrade stack of each of their spires. These chips are treated as upgrades that do not provide a benefit and do not count towards the spire's upgrade capacities. When a faction deals damage that removes one of these upgrades from an opposing spire, that faction draws a relic. Troop Shortage and Scavengers. Okay, so that was all the events. And here are the relics in a relatively quick fashion. Sonic Disruptor. Guild Key. Use any time to acquire an equipment from the market offerings for free. Keyhall Gauntlets. Decay Emulsifier. Battering Ram. Defeat any spire in play that has only one upgrade on it. Gain the reward even if the spire is controlled by you. Okay. Swart Jerky. Raid Cutlass. Use after attacking a hero that has equipment. Take its equipment and place it beside your barracks. Miniature Terraform. Essence Venom. Source Form Replicant. Mott's Guidebook. Brawnin only. Spires cost 1 fewer source to construct. Interesting. Grove Tenders only. Heirs only. Greed only. Aurora only. Horizon's Wrath only. And the Voidstone only. It's interesting. And Shada only. What? Who was that? Anyways, I'm not really sure how those cards are supposed to be put into play. I guess maybe you shuffle them in only if you are playing with those factions. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is all the new content from Cloudspire, their most recent Kickstarter. So in our next video, we will be taking a look at the base game, which has had some minor upgrades to it. This is the second edition that we'll be taking a look at. So if you're super into Cloudspire, you might find that interesting. Or if you've never seen Cloudspire before, certainly check out that video, which will air tomorrow. We'll also be taking a look at the Greed and Portal Seekers expansion, along with that one. So, and also, I'm going to attempt to see how this all fits, if it all fits, into the main box. We'll put that at the end of the next video. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more content like this in the future, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.